Fair.
All right, so the stream should be going. Yeah, like I said, we're just waiting for people to come back. So we'll give it a few. Um, let's see if hopefully that works. Mm-hmm. So yeah, as we wait for people, yeah, I definitely have. I'm curious, especially going from the 8 to the 12. It was a really big step for us, and I remember for the longest time we were trying to play test the champions to death to figure out that they were right and perfect, and then after a
Hmm.
long time we realized there's actually a pretty big margin of error for getting the champions perfect. So
Yeah,
because
that's
so
fair.
much relies on the way you make your deck. Um, Tate, who do you think is like the most powerful champion? Nubia, right?
Nubia or Idris would be my
Yeah.
yeah two.
So I think when it comes to Nubia, I could see someone make a Nubia deck and it being super overpowered, and then another person making a Nubia deck that just falters in every situation. And
Yeah.
so there's so much variability that comes in from the deck itself, that it's hard for me to pinpoint a particular champion being like super overpowered, super broken, or anything like that. It's really hard to give that justification in a lot of ways. All right, so we have some
Well,
people.
I told you about my matchup where I had. It's been a while since you've seen them, but there's a dad and a kid who plays,
Oh yeah.
and I literally told the kid, you can play your newbie deck. I'm gonna give you 1,000 life. I'm gonna get infinite aura, and I beat him. He decked out.
Yeah.
Well, because the actual flaw was that the kid is afraid to move up into threatening squares, and
Yeah.
I was running giant scorpions. So rather than ever coming up, he would back away, and I just sat back
Mm-hmm.
until he decked out.
Yeah, and like, I hate to kind of pick on him, but we looking at the not the last tournament, but the tournament before, we had the Angel Nubia deck, that came in last place, and it's just you can have the best tools, but if you don't know how to play with them more well, or you overuse them, or you don't use them the right way, it's gonna backfire. So, all right. It seems like we got a good number of our patrons come back to the channel. Thank you, everyone who's come back. Steve and Brad, thank you for confirming that the video is much nicer now. So we're back on track. So we were talking about the champions, breaking down the stats. We talked about health. Health doesn't matter too much. Energy doesn't matter too much. So you're saying to me, basically, it comes
Oh, I
down
have
to.
one more point on health.
Pardon?
I would like
Okay,
to.
yeah.
I'd like to say.
Yeah,
I
go.
like to talk about. So it's actually only recently that I'm starting to observe health in a new light,
Okay.
and it's not so much the base stats of the champions, but it's the way that I deck build.
Okay.
I make usually very bursty, damaging decks, so that when I face the lower tier health, it's an easy win for me. I can usually like turn one, like I can OTK them if they are foolish enough to double move up in front of me.
Yeah.
However, when I'm starting to face the higher tier ones, it's a lot more difficult. Because I don't have that exact amount. I usually I at the upper ends I got 22 damage, let's say, in my starting hand somehow. We're gonna
Okay.
say I have 22 damage. That means like to get to Malik, every card I draw needs to be damage. It's gonna I to get there. It's probably gonna take me 2 turns, and every single one has to be damage.
Yeah.
And he has to, of course, have no defense cards.
Of course.
So that's why I think you playing Malik nowadays, and you're like he seems to be getting better. I think in the older days, it was a slower format where you would build the board and then Malik would just get beat up because it's long going. But now when it's a lot of aggressive bursty builds, it's a lot harder for me to take down Malik.
Yeah. I think in general, so this is something I wanted to get to as we dig into it a little bit more. But like, there are some champions I think we're missing particular pieces, and with especially as we start playing Future League a lot more, and for people who are participating in the Future League tournament, keep this in mind. Reevaluate some of the older champions, because Malik is, I love my Malik deck right now because he can stand his own finally. And I think a big part of it is like what you're saying. He has a lot of health. He can be a bit more tanky as a champion, and he doesn't just falter when things don't go right. He's like, okay, I can pick myself back up and start bashing my opponent for a whole bunch. So, yeah. If you're playing in the Future League tournament this Saturday, which I hope everyone who's watching is, look at... I really like Malik. There's so many champions who I would come back and reevaluate, because there are so many more tools that are at their disposal, especially between breaks and... Anyways, we already did a stream on this last week. Let's continue.
Aura. Yes. Let's talk about Aura.
Yeah.
Aren't you glad we didn't talk about Future League? I don't know. So Aura, I take a different perception, I think, than most people do, specifically with my deck building. So when I deck build, and I build a very Aura-intensive deck, I look at a potential 6-card hand. Let's just say it's 6 Tsunamis. I go, would I be able to play all 6 of those Tsunamis with my starting Aura? The answer is yes, but for Nubia. But so I think there's this perception that even these lower Aura people can't play a lot of Aura stuff, and I don't think that's actually true. 90 is quite a bit. Now, you're not going to be able to play 6 Tsunamis.
No. You can play 5.
You can play 5. 5's a lot.
Yeah.
5's 15 damage.
Yeah.
And I've definitely started to feel that more when playing with the Future League stuff, because the fighters have gotten a lot of boost. And so I find myself playing a lot more fighters. But I still fill the deck with Tsunami-like effect. And it doesn't take away from them at all. It's just a great tool to have in there if I get 1 or 2 of them.
Yeah. I know I've been playing fighters from the very beginning. I've always, like, when the game first came out and it was just these 4 champions, Idris, Malik, Raha, and Nubia, I was the one who jumped on Raha. I played Raha. Most people played either Malik or Idris. Because, again, Death Companions, Death Eaters, Giant Scorpions, a lot of the more powerful cards were in those affiliations. Not a lot of people were playing Nubia, because Angels didn't exist. I mean, there were a few Bolt Shots. Actually, I don't even think Bolt Shots were in rotation yet. So I think the only powerhouse thing that Nubia had was Guardian of Balance. And at that time, people hated Guardian of Balance. Like, they just would not consider playing it. Now, there's a whole other perspective, but Nubia did not see favor. So I always loved playing fighters. And then even when I went to go play summoners, who are traditionally more aura intensive, I play Long. And Long does not have a lot of aura. He just breaks into the 3-digit. But at the end of the games, most of my games, I'm looking back, I'm like, how much aura did I have left? Because if I had more than 50% of my starting aura remaining, I'm not looking at enough of these powerhouse aura cards like Tsunami or Landslide if you're playing Thymos. If you're finding yourself with a lot of aura remaining at the end of the game, then look into running more aura cards. Expensive aura cards too. And it's the other way around for energy. I know you don't look at energy reduction, but even if you have 0 energy reduction, if at the end of the game you find yourself with 0 aura, but still have 30 cards left in your deck, look into running a Rain of Arrows, or I guess Bellum doesn't have there aren't a lot of other really expensive energy cards, are there?
No.
Rain of Arrows is really the only one. Uh,
That's timeless, but yes.
yeah. Well, I mean, okay, so you have Rain of Arrows, you have Demon's Rage, which is another expensive energy card.
Yeah.
But if you're with a lot of cards left over, I mean, also look into dedicated studies.
You know me, I love my dedicated studies
Yeah.
on all my Axon decks. It's because there isn't that big energy for me to spend, so I'm just going to spend it that way.
Yeah. So, like, the big thing I would say, no matter who your champion is, no matter how you're breaking them down, at the end of your games, especially the games where you're losing, look at where your resource separations were. Your health is at 0, but the question is, like, how much ore did you have remaining? How much energy did you have remaining? Did you spend enough of it? Because there's no point of being frugal if you're trying to fight for your life. Spend those resources.
Yep.
All right, so we talked about those 3 banner stats. When it comes to the abilities, how do you break down the abilities? Like, is there any way you group these champions to talk about the ability?
I don't think you really can. I think most of the abilities are very unique. Maybe Malk and Raha are the most similar because they're both attacks, just different attack styles.
Yes.
But otherwise, everyone else is uniquely different.
My phone's...
Except for Fang, who you can say you are not likely to use the ability.
So,
that's not true. It's been used. It's been used.
Yeah. Seriously, phone? My phone... Why is it that when you're actually doing something, that's when people just start messaging you?
I don't know. That's how it works. It just does it.
It's the law of the universe, right?
Yeah.
So I know for Lionel in particular, he loves Fire Shield. And recently I was playing with Fong, and I actually found myself using Fire Shield every now and then when I was sitting there and like, I have no other way to exert myself at the end of round. So this is one of the best benefits for Fong, is that if at the end of your turn you realize you are not going to exert yourself in any other way, you have a way to exert yourself that's not just wasting your turn.
Yes, yeah.
And that's actually really, really powerful. Idris is in the same regards. You are always throwing the fireball unless you're out of aura. And if you're out of aura, you're probably in hand-to-hand combat or running for your life. And so she's going to exert herself almost every single turn. And Fong's in the same regard. She's going to exert herself every single turn because preventing 1 damage is just worth it sometimes. Why not, right?
Yeah, I agree.
So I see that kind of in Erica's too, with the Conjure Baihu. It's just her ability is a bit more expensive, so you may not always want to bring out the Baihus. So yeah, there's no grouping in that ways. Each champion you're kind of taking as a unique snowflake when it comes to their abilities. And when it comes to awareness, we only have 3 unique awarenesses: Raha, Rain, and Odara. Right? Yeah. Everyone else is forward. So, at the end of the day, what would be your advice to someone who's coming into this and, you know, they're either new to the game or are trying to look at a new champion? What would be your advice to them on where to start?
If they're like completely new to the game, I usually say play Idris. Just because you're generally going to have fun, you're going to interact with your opponent, no matter who they are. On turn 1, you are guaranteed to have an interaction with your opponent. You will fireball them. And then I also say, every turn you will fireball your opponent. That's my only advice.
Yes.
Oh. For new people coming in, that's usually my go-to.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody I've had play Idris went, I hate Idris.
Yeah. I think especially if you're coming from other collectible card games, Idris is a really great way to enter because it has that feel of most other card games where as a general or as a the hero of the game, you're usually passively standing behind your hand and just dealing damage or taking damage. You're not actually engaging in the flow of combat. So Idris is the same way. I remember Steve-O for the longest time played Idris where he literally did not move.
Yeah, that's fair.
And that's just something you can do with her. You can't really do that much with the other champions. Maybe Nubia, but then you're also not pushing on combat. You're not kind of pushing the game forward. So yeah, Idris is a good place to start. I also like Raha as a starting place, because yeah, she doesn't engage right away, but it's really easy for her to start engaging. She doesn't engage on round 1, but she starts on round 2. And it's really
usually for me at new player, I've already had them play the demo deck, so they've seen these two champions and they want to go from there to something more.
Okay.
Is my perception.
Yeah, no one really wants to dig down into those two champions.
No, that's not true. I believe Darren, after playing the deck, was like, I want to play Raha more.
Nice. Yeah, Darren, you did well. And I like Raha. I think she's such a good starting champion. I think Malik is a really great demo champion just because he has a lot of health, so you get to see a longer game. But with the current card pool, he's really hard to play competitively. All right, so let's talk about going from the 8 champions to the 12 champions, like adding those additional 4. What was your initial reaction, and how did they pair up with the original 8?
So my initial reaction, I wasn't okay. I was happy with Erica. I was okay. I also say I was wrong about Raha Khan. I'm like, these two to me, they were very similar when I first previewed it, and I'm way wrong. I was way wrong on that one. Just because I was like, offensive wise, Raha can double move, and then she can hit the area that Kun can. At that time, Kun actually had a Swift.
Yeah,
I believe.
Yeah.
So it's definitely very much different. Now Kun I see as a different style. He essentially gets to double move and play action, is the style that I perceive Kun as. Core I really like. Is just he's the middle ground between Rain and Kendra for me. It's in this faction. If you have them in between, and he's actually got health in Sahas.
Yeah.
To not die immediately, where the other two don't. I like Core a lot. I wish I could Mobius champions for the ultimate memes. That's my real mega gripe about Core.
Yeah, that would be a pretty good way to kill players. It'd just be like, yep, and I'm Mobiusing you.
When Odaro was first, was really excited for it. But after playing it, I feel like Odara ends up being the weakest, definitely the weakest of the 4. And then in general, you start looking at the other champions in the faction. The stats are really weak. You're like, well, it's a summoner deck, so that doesn't matter too much. But then you're like weakening your own summons. And then she starts to falter further and further back. For me personally. And it's just comparing the stats. It's so many less health, a decently lower aura than Idris. She really doesn't have that much combat potential because you're probably spurring or you're doing 1 damage. The 1 damage isn't that crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I find that if I believe out of any of these champions, actually all the champions here, that the stats are wrong, I believe it is Odara.
All right. Yeah, I remember in the early days when we first pitched Odara and people were playtesting her, there was the sense that she was going to be broken.
Yeah,
because it's just.
And I think I had that too.
Yeah.
Because just the basic look at her, you're like, wow, she removes exert tokens. That's never been done before.
Yep.
This is crazy.
Yep. And then there's also all the hypotheticals you could do with her. It's like, oh, I can bring down Primordial Force and spur it. I can bring down Giant Scorpions and spur it. There was so much potential and growth for her, but I don't know. I haven't seen it come together super well.
Yeah, it's it has the two flaws that she herself is a squishier champion. She's not a frontliner, but when she plays her big beefy summons, she makes them squishy for the opponent.
Yeah.
She brings that she makes the opportunity for yourself, but in that moment, your opponent can take advantage and go let's just say it's a 6 health summon, 4 damage. Oh, continue with your spur. Oh, you killed it.
Yeah. So this all being said, it doesn't necessarily mean that there is no opportunity for them or that it's just finding the right person to play with. Like Steve saying in the comments, Odara may become better in the future, like Malik. It's very possible with the right summon, with the right combination. Maybe there's some crazy, imagine if you had a summon who's similar to the Nizu, who does the Holy Brand, but it does like a Fire Brand, and you could spur that summon on, brand someone immediately, and then do all this other craziness. There's always opportunity. It's just finding the right person who resonates with them. And I think that also, I don't know if we're really displaying this well enough, is the fact that every set of champions, I think will resonate better with one player or another. Like, I can play Nubia fairly well, but I don't think I can win a tournament with her. But I'm confident I could come in and win a tournament with Long or Idris, 2 champions who I have won tournaments with. So I think when it comes down to it, it's finding also, it's not just, is the champion right? It's the question of, is this champion right for you?
For sure.
And so, Brad saying, I was super excited about Core, but I've never built anything spectacular with him yet. Still hoping to. Yeah, there's definitely some piece of the puzzle that's missing. And let's go back to Rain. For so long, people said that about Rain. When she first launched in Alpha, right up until the championship, everyone was saying, I love Rain, but I don't know how to play with her. And then it just was one person's imagination, and they realized, okay, this is what you can do with her, and became a serious threat. And who knows, Core might have that capacity of becoming that serious threat. It's just waiting for the right player to recognize the full potential there. And Darren heard his name and was wondering what we were talking about. We were excited about the fact that you would like playing with Raha. So it's actually interesting from a design perspective, because just because I designed all these characters and I created the background does not mean that, one, I'm the right person for those champions, or two, that I actually know in depth. Like, I don't pigeonhole these champions. Despite what you may think, I really want to design these champions to be as open-ended as possible. Oh, I just reset my camera on the table. I want the champions to be as open-ended as possible so people can play with them in very unique ways. Like the way Idris and Nubia both ended up getting played, that was not my intent for them at all. They were both supposed to be casters, and they came out being summoners. Nubia Angel and Idris Scorpions. And then you came around and played Nubia Tsunami. I'm like, finally, someone's playing Nubia the way I wanted her to be played. And then, yeah, like, I expected Long to be a summoner, one of the best summoners. Probably out of all of the original 8, he was the only one who was intended to be a summoner to begin with. And no one looked at him as being a summoner. So, my intentions, or the way I designed them, it's always overwritten from the players. And I like that. I like that opportunity. So, if you were to take one of these champions and kind of, what's the one champion you wish you could build a stronger deck with?
Probably Kendra. Because I just lose with Kendra generally. To be fair, I think I beat you recently with a very powerful Kendra deck, didn't I? But I I think I'm just Kendra and I go a long way. Where every draft, for some reason, I go, I'm gonna play Kendra, and I do it, and I take away my opponent's hand. The opponent gets no hand, and then my life goes to 0 after that.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's so true. I don't know why. I remember for a long time I played Kendra hyper aggressively. Like it was all about teleporting in or somehow getting in as close as possible, as quickly as possible, and then doing neurons and all this stuff. And it doesn't seem to cap off, right? Like you can do all this damage, but you don't have a win con. That's I think the biggest issue.
Yep.
Yeah. I and there's something I don't know. I think there's a weird relationship in with hand destruction in games in general. Like it's nice to do, but I've never really seen like I haven't seen many decks in many games where a hand destruction deck really has the game. Like it's eventually you destroy your opponent's hand, and then it's like then the question comes up like now what? Now what are you gonna do? So I don't know. I think Kendra could be a really cool control, but she's missing some piece to the puzzle. And again, I think that piece to the puzzle isn't the right cards; it's the right person to figure it out.
That's fair. Yeah, if we're going about pieces, I think for me, there's only 3 champions who have been missing pieces, and that would have been. See, even Kendra, I actually don't think is really missing pieces. You can play Kendra. I've seen it done. I've done it. I think it's really Malik and Odara who've been missing pieces. In the current set, not talking about Future League, obviously.
Yeah.
Those are the 2 that I think have been missing pieces. Because I've faced several Malik decks, and none of them have even gotten close to impressing me. They're just so straightforward. It's like I'm getting your face, try to beat you, and then they end up faltering.
Yeah. And it's such a shame because you would really love to play a game where either you're playing super tanky with Malik and you're just running in and doing all this chaos and just beating things down because that's just fun to do. Or you're playing Odara where you're sending in all these creatures super, super fast, but then they all just kind of die.
Yep. And that's my thing with Odara. It's like I've enjoyed playing Odara decks. Yeah. There's games where I'm like, I got 6 summon downs, I'm gonna wreck it, and then somebody goes, "Oh, I finally got beside you, Odara. All right, you're dead." I'm like, oh. I didn't think I did. I thought I had this one.
Yeah. Brad brings up a point that there was a time in Yu-Gi-Oh where there was a really strong hand disruption deck, where they destroy the hand and then players can't draw cards afterwards, because of card's effect. And
that's
like, yeah,
I think I know that card too. It's the purple crow card that was playing Yu-Gi-Oh back then.
And we've seen that there were times where we had moments like that in Future League, and we've actually decided to drop some of those cards from design because, I mean, you can do stuff like that in a game, but it's not fun. It's not fun for the person who's having it done to them. And I don't know about everyone out there, but I personally don't like doing that to people. It's just...
No, I think the fair way is to do it the Magic way. Is like the cards that say at the start of the round, if you don't have any cards in hand, you just lose X life. Like that's fair, and then it persuades you as a player to not play cards, and then the discarding player his goal is still to make you discard that card.
Yeah. Yeah. So like we had that. I remember even in Magic there were times where I played against like lockdown decks where they would just like shut you down from being able to do anything, and it's like, all right, great. Good for you. Like, it doesn't feel like we're even playing a game anymore. So I don't know. I want to avoid that in Genesis as much as possible. But
Like London Fog.
oh, the fog deck. So like hand destruction to a degree is fun. Like I like when you get that first or second Neuron in, because even as the person playing Kendra, when you play Neuron and you make them discard the 2 cards, you're like, yes, I finally got up to them. I finally did this. And if you're the person who's having Neuron received to you, you hate it. But at the same time, you're constantly thinking like, either you're thinking, what could I have done to stop this? Or you're like, I can't believe they got through. Like, they were able to do this. Because once you're playing against Kendra, your main goal is to avoid her as much as possible.
Yeah.
So, I think that's fine. But when it gets to a point that you're trying to make hand destruction as a concept to work all the time, that's where the big challenge kind of comes into a game. Because it's just, after a while, it just stops becoming fun.
Mm-hmm. Well, and in Genesis in general, I've seen a lot of people be like, "Oh, I'm gonna put a few discard cards into my deck," and then I usually when the newer players, I go, "Why? What benefit does it actually benefit your deck?" Because in Genesis, like if you're facing a summoner deck or anything like that, your opponent's gonna play all those stuff on turn 1. If they have a bunch of techniques or stuff that are swift, they can just dump them when you go to discard.
Yeah.
Where Nurem's different because it's in your character. When it's a card in your deck, and it's now down to top deck wars because you're playing a discard deck, and you top deck a discard card, that feels even worse because this is part of your strategy, and you're drawing these strategy cards that are now dead to you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I completely agree. I just, yeah. I think there'll come a day where someone finds a way to make Kendra work, not because of Nurum. Nurum will play a part to it, but more because she's in that color combination. She has 150 aura, and she has this aspect that when she can come in and actually get to the opponent's face, she can really slow them down or halt them in a lot of ways. I think my favorite build with Kendra was not to use a lot of hand destruction. It was mainly based off of Nurum, but mind reading, Nurum, and Malfeasance.
Yes, so I like that.
I teleport in. Mind reading lets me see if they have answers. If they do, I Nurum them. See if I got those answers out. If I got those answers out, then I play Malfeasance. And Malfeasance is just a fun card. It's such a fun card. Sure. Actually, that's our Future League promo for this month, isn't it?
I believe so. Yeah.
So anyone who's part of Future League is going to be getting the reverse art Malfeasance. And it's definitely a card that, on the casual sense, like, but I see a Malfeasance in a draft, I'm taking it. It's just such a cool card.
Yeah, I agree.
For casual play, it's a lot of fun. Playing a multiplayer deck where you're doing Malfeasance, I think is great. Kendra is actually one of my favorite multiplayer champions.
That's fair, for sure. You mean when Lionel charges at your Kendra, and you try to defend yourself, and then all the players start attacking Kendra. Is that what you mean, Sid? That what you mean?
I did not expect them to come after you.
For everybody listening, we were doing a 4-way game, I think, just last week. Lionel went first. Double moves and does like an extra move to charge at me or something. No, I think he just double moved at me. So I just take one step on my turn and Nurum him. And then somehow I'm the bad guy here. And everybody starts charging at me. Everybody on the table.
To be fair, Alex, most games where I play with you in multiplayer, you are the bad guy.
That's fair. I accept that.
At the end of the day, what it really is this: I think you're really good at playing multiplayer. And because you win so often, you become this target for me. And I mean, the same thing happens to me. I don't know what it is, but whenever I play against a group of new players, they always want to come after me. And I think part of it is there's just this joy that players have in destroying the person who created the game. That's
fair.
It's very evil.
I think my issue was I was too close to Lionel, because Lionel's usually my ally as another agent of chaos.
Yes, yeah. See, Lionel dislikes playing against me. I'm the one who's usually the one who gets Lionel to lose one way or another. So,
Like when you make him a true steal and then immediately like kill his summons.
he attacked me first. Multiplayer's fun.
Anywho.
Yeah, so what else did I want to bring up? So I had what makes a champion good? What would you avoid in a champion? Like if you or why would you avoid a champion to play with?
Interesting. Looking at the 12 champions on the board, I don't think I've avoided any of them. But if I had to pinpoint one, it is Rain.
Yeah.
It is Rain. Yeah. Definitely the least I've played, and then like I've tried to. It has the same issue that Kendra has because it's actually squishier by 1 health than Kendra, less aura than Kendra. But it wants to be up in your face, but it's not controlling when it's there.
Yeah.
As much.
Because you have to give us
so you have
tools just to get up to their face, right? If you're discarding 2 cards, what are you discarding? Your offensive or your defensive?
Yeah. And I don't usually use Living Shadows to get up there. I usually go in there. Once I'm losing, I Living Shadows to get out.
That's the way
and
it
hope
was
to
intended.
draw something good to rebuild from that point. But that as a strategy is bad because it's like I would rather have just gone in there and hopefully won, which is what I usually do with most of my champions. But it's emergency. Get out of there.
Yeah. I think it's very true. Most players who are brand new to the game, so many players want to gravitate towards playing with Rain, and I try my best to recommend, try someone else, try someone with higher health or more aura or something. Like Rain is such a hard champion to master when you're just new to the game. So I try to get them to take a step back, but I mean, people don't heed my warnings.
That's fair.
And
fair.
I get it. I would have been the exact same way, to be honest. Rain's just so cool looking, and it's like, yep, I want to play with Rain. But I don't know the last time I built a deck for Rain. It's been a long while. So Brad saying multiplayer is definitely a different kind of beast. You pretty much have to build yourself a deck for multiplayer. No, I completely agree. Like when I play multiplayer, there is one particular Kendra deck that I love playing with in multiplayer, and it's basically like temporal relocations, shadow grass, meteorites, pale foxes, all these like really annoying things. I never plan to win. I have no intention to win. All I want to do is just do some ridiculous combination of stuff and like, have someone play a bolt shot and another person try to get out of it and me shadow grasping them back in. This is the stuff I want to do. But yeah, like Rain is a champion who I'd say avoid if you're brand new to the game. Everyone else is fairly okay because they have some sort of stat that they can lean on. Maybe Odara, just because.
No, even Odara is okay as like a starting, because conceptual wise, you can give that to a new character, and they're like, "This is a summoner."
Yeah, that's true.
They will not mess that up.
Yeah,
they can conceptually understand that, no matter what.
Yeah, that's true. And then most other champions have a decent amount of health or have a decent amount of aura. No one is at that very fragile state. I think Rain is just an exception. It's her high attack and her nice awareness that really hold her back. Yeah. So, all right. I think
I have some questions for you.
Okay,
if you,
let's go for it.
Because we haven't got we're going into stats here, but we haven't gone into the lore.
Okay.
What makes the champion? Let's start with the basics there.
So, what makes the champion? As in, like the lore, the kind of the triggering point.
Sure. What's the difference between Kun the farmer who got angel blood and just Kun the farmer?
So the idea was we had to transition the world from being its normal state to becoming this world where you play as these particular champions. Not everyone could become a champion. So I was trying to think of what these things could be. And the trope of like people being destined to be great or whatever, it felt very far off. The something like the Metachlorians in Star Wars was kind of weird, where everyone has the potential, but some people get stronger. I like this idea of it being serendipitous in a way. The right person with the right event occurring just kind of transcends them to this higher state of being. So you'll see for all these champions, underneath their name, you see their race, their class, and then it goes dash and then an item. So for Malik, you have the demon skull. For Idris, you have the fire amulet. And then depending on their city and the lore of their city, you'll see that there's a theme in the way their conduits are. So these conduits are items or attributes or aspects that they get added to them that end up elevating them from humans up to champions. And champions are stronger, have more tolerance to pain. That's why their health is much higher. If you think of it, we have what's a big creature? You have the 3/3 Jilarian Hound. A hound can take in our world, a hound and a human, their health wouldn't be so different. But in here, 3 health versus 25 health on Idris. Like 25 is, a lot more. So this idea that
may I ask a question then? So what would the average health of a non-champion human be?
I'd say closer to 5 or 6.
Okay.
Like Guardian of Balance type of thing. Maybe a little bit weaker, but around that scope. So the champions get pushed to a much higher degree. On top of that, they have this ability to harvest aura and retain it. So they can take aura and store it inside their conduit, and the conduit then allows them they can tap into it to do these abilities. So in the Vishud clan, all these conduits are necklaces that they wear. So Idris's, you see there's the 4 buttons on the top. In the center of those buttons, there's a red amulet. That's the fire amulet that she wears. Malik, it's the skull that's around his chest, with a very loose Vishud symbol painted on it. Odara has this necklace that you can see right underneath her scarf. In the Vadhis clan, these are aspects that were given to them from other entities. So the Aether Sphere given to Nubia from the Ancient Ones. Raha had the demon arm implanted into her, and Kun has the angel wings. And then for Sahas, these are curses put on them from at the end of the day, the Book of the Dam does this to them. But the book itself is this curse that Kendra has to protect us with her life. Her life is tethered to this book, and she has to protect it for all eternity. She uses this book on Rain, which ends up cursing Rain with the 5 shadows of the old ones. And then the Core is cursed with those horns that he has. That's actually a skull of another creature, and that was implanted into him, which resurrected him back to life. And then for Ajna, these are the essences of ancient creatures. So there's the phoenix, the dragon, and then the tiger. And so this is this kind of concept of the conduits, and this idea of having themes around the cities or the grouping of characters is something we're going to be pushing forward with other sets. So that's kind of how the champions come together. The other big part of them is I have a really overactive imagination. So once I get to know the champions, I can close my eyes and literally have a conversation with them. I can see them. I can interact with them. I can get them to tell me their backstory. And they explain to me how did they come about becoming a champion? What was their big tragic moment? So
fair.
It's kind of weird, but I enjoyed. Yeah. And then
now, was Malik's demon skull always a necklace, or was it his mace originally?
It's always been if you even look at the Alpha original art from Arthur, he's wearing the same thing. Yeah.
For some reason, I always thought it was his mace.
Nope. It's the
That was just
thing
me.
around his neck.
One on his chest. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Because he's got a cool mace too,
yeah,
which is
he
also
does.
like a demon or devil skull. Or
Yeah,
was the alpha one? I don't. Oh, I guess the alpha's not here. Well, yeah.
yeah.
It's
It's even here on the anime artwork.
weird. It's there.
It's there.
It's
Um,
there.
so it's one of those things that we had a lot of problems where an artist would submit an artwork and I'd be like, oh, the conduit's missing, and then we'd have to go back and add it in. So we started creating the champion, what do you call them, profile pieces, where it highlights what is the conduit, what is the key weapon, why do they dress the way they do. Because one of the big things, I think Idris is a good example of this, is her clothing actually changes a little bit between Damian's artwork and Philip's artwork. And you'll notice that if you look at a lot of pieces from her, you'll see that she wears different clothing. So for Nubia and Raha, this is actual a uniform that they wear, so they can't change
That makes sense.
the way the clothing they wear.
I was gonna say I hope they change their clothing.
Yeah, but the way it looks, it's the same. It's consistent in all the pieces. Kendra and Rain come from a place where they don't care about the outward appearance, so they wouldn't have different clothing per se. Rain in particular is just covering up her skin because she doesn't want a lot of people to see the blue. But Kendra just wears this robe, but she does have different types of robes in her clothing. And then following along, I think there is some changes in some pieces, but not a whole lot. So I think it's just like minor color changes and things like that.
Yeah.
But for the most part, they're consistent. And that's one of the things that, as we improve, not saying like we're great at it now, but as the art team improves and we can improve these processes, we want to make sure that they get the opportunity to change give them more life in the characters. So from set to set and things like that, they will age, they will change, and that's going to be an important thing. So Steve is asking, would the champion lose their abilities if the conduits are stolen or destroyed? So conduits can't be destroyed. It's just it's tethered to that character. Can they be stolen? That's possible. A lot of these conduits are built into the person, so it's not stealable. I think the only ones that are the Vishuddha ones, where they're just necklaces.
I can steal an arm.
You can steal the arm, yeah. Or you could steal the Aether Sphere. But the Aether Sphere actually comes in and out of existence. There's times where she actually like conjures it for Nubia. So, but like, or I guess you could steal the wings off of Khan. But it's a little bit more difficult and gruesome. And a big part of the story arc is about getting the Book of the Damned. That's the whole entire driving factor between Nubia and Kendra. Is Nubia wants the book. So there is, I don't know about losing their abilities, but their abilities are enhanced or focused with their conduits. I think Rain has the worst conduit in the regards that they talk to her. Like, and it's not pleasant conversation either. They mock her. So she literally had, where's Foresight of the Ancients? These are literally her conduits. If you read the flavor text, it's her conduit talking to her. And you can see by the smiles on their faces, like, they're not nice creatures. And so I always felt bad for Rain in that regards. She has so much burden put on her, and she's not a happy person. But
that's fair.
Yeah. Cool.
Now Core isn't a human. Well, neither is Rain. But Core was a fiend, which fiends are essentially unintelligent, right? Prior to being resurrected.
Yes.
So, absolutely a curveball question for you. How does Core feel about clothing?
That's an interesting point. So, first I want to say, like, fiends are summons in this world. So, like you were saying, not that they're unintelligent, it's that they're not sentient. They're not aware, self-aware. So fiends are mindless, just hunt, gather, all those type of things. Core itself was killed and then resurrected, and that's how he ascended from becoming a regular fiend to becoming a champion. How does he feel about clothing? I don't know. I've never asked him that question. At some point, I will have to ask him about that. A lot of his outer skin has become an armor itself.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Fair enough.
I don't think he would wear a lot of clothing. Like, I don't think he'll have that level of shame, especially. I don't know how old he is. I have it written somewhere. He's told me before, but he given that he's not young, and he's gone so long without wearing clothes. I don't think it would make a difference to him, really. He would just be the way he has always been.
Fair. There's the core we're looking for. He is wearing a waist, a cod piece.
Yeah.
Waist. Is this core from after being a champion or before being a champion?
After, because you could tell he can talk.
That was gonna be my next question. Can fiends talk? Okay, cool.
Yeah. So he has this idea of language.
Cool.
So yeah. Interesting
For any
question.
viewers who haven't seen my post, I am also prepping for a Genesis RPG. If you're interested in that type of thing, comment in the Discord. I could add you to the list. So I'm secretly learning lore here.
Fair enough. All right. So while I have people, I'm going to put up the link for the tournament, registration, and also Discord. So I'll put up the Discord link in the chat right now. So if you're not part of our Discord, come join the conversation, and also have the opportunity to do some RPG stuff. I'm gonna be checking that out. That's gonna be interesting. I'm gonna try my best not to be like, well, that's not accurate.
Yeah, I was going to say that to you. You just gotta play along.
Yeah.
Afterwards, you can write. We'll have a special video about what was wrong with the world.
No, I know. Like, so one of the big things when I went to build this game was that I had experience with CCGs for a long time, experience with miniature games. But as for RPGs, I played like video game RPGs, Diablo, Final Fantasy, and to a degree, and even like Heroes of Might and Magic, or Might and Magic, where it was a little bit more old school with character design, where you started off, you had your character, you had a certain amount of points, and you can allocate it into different stats, and that's how your character would develop. So I didn't have like traditional D&D RPG experience, but I have had other RPG experience. So there are elements of this game that I want to bring in from all those different formats for gaming. So there's definitely things about the Genesis card game that I think can be leveraged very easily into an RPG. So I'm excited to see how you take it, because it's going to be an interesting experience. And it'll be my first experience doing a tabletop RPG. It'll be on Tabletop Simulator, but Darren's asking if you've added him to that list for the RPG.
I don't know. Did you post in the Discord?
That's the question. If it's not on the Discord, then it's not recorded. Yeah,
it's
so
the community made channel.
Yeah. So I'm really excited about that. And we'll probably end up trying to stream some of that if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I think that'll be a fun
definitely
experience.
fine with me.
All right, so I think that's everything for this week. Thank you, Alex, for being part of this conversation. I always enjoy doing these with you. Yeah. And thank you to the community and everyone who's joined us. Actually, let me fix that core artwork. I don't know why it got so large. I tried to put up the image and it just didn't work. All right, we're gonna have to deal with it. Core is off to the right. So thank you everyone who's watching. Thank you, Alex, for joining. And next week,
Thanks for hosting.
huh?
Said thanks for hosting.
You're welcome. It's been an experience. I can't believe we're 10 episodes in. Definitely a lot of great conversations. So if you missed any previous episodes, you can find the backlog in on YouTube. So that's it for now, and we'll see you next week.
Have a good one, guys. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Bye.